of the corporate fraud investigators from the IRS. Now, you can argue, is it a fair tax or not? Obviously, that's a scam, too. But the issue is they don't enforce on billionaires. They enforce on middle-class and blue-collar workers. Because the criminal class, that's why it came out that more than half of Congress doesn't even pay the taxes. I mean, this is an openly criminal group. Go ahead.
No, I couldn't agree more. And yet you've got a minimum. This is a bare minimum done by studies, proved by studies from Boston University researchers and others that say that a bare minimum of 56% of the people who are on the panels that decide which drugs get dispensed to our children, 56% is the minimum number of people who also have conflicts of interest with the drug companies. Well, on some committees, and you're talking about the antipsychotic drugs and schizophrenia groups, 100% of the decision makers on the committee that are ruling on which drugs are dispensed to the general public, 100% of them are getting money from the drug companies. Speakers' fees, traveling events, hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars that they then don't even declare to the general public that there is a conflict. Now, in any other entity, if you had conflicts of interest with Boeing and airplanes and the FAA,
you would have to recuse yourself.
Exactly right. And so why isn't it the case with this when we are affecting the lives of our future leaders in this nation? The only answer that I can come with are two answers. One is the dumbing down aspect that you talk about a lot. And number two is just, frankly, just the money that's at risk. And, this order that we've always talked about, it now is reaching way beyond just the borders of the United States in the medical profession into the World Trade Organization. We're tied into it through all of our trade acts, NAFTA and CAFTA and the World Health Organization and all these god-awful things. And sooner or later, you and I and a cadre of other freedom fighters are going to let it be known to people in a way that they can understand and embrace and act on that this has to stop. And it will stop because we're going to make it stop.
Well, we have to. And I think people should get Generation RX, your film, and have viewing parties, show it to their neighbors. We have to start getting in people's business. I mean, they're taking our kids and turning them into tattletales to spy on us and saying that's kosher. It's normal for us to go talk to our neighbors, talk to our friends, talk to our families. When I'm in an airport or a grocery store now, believe me, I'm selfish. I just want to get on my airplane. I just want to get my food and go. But I will walk over and say, hey, listen, I don't want to get in your business, but I really care about, your humanity, or I really care about your child's health. They're trying to push dozens and dozens of new vaccines every year, and these have all been proven to be causing a problem. Just do research before you vaccinate your children, and you don't have to take the vaccines. And a lot of times I'll say thank you and start walking away, and they will say, because it's almost like they're thankful. They can't believe another human is talking to them. We've all been trained to not talk. And they'll say, it's not the law. I didn't want to give her or him the shots, but they said I had to. And I'll say, no. Google. I go, do you have a search engine? Yes. Do you have a computer? Yes. We'll search engine the term vaccine waiver form and then your state. And you just got to give them that form. And they go, thank you. Or other times they go, and are kind of the type that are uptight and scared and don't want to. I don't care, though. I'm ready to do whatever it takes to go 110% to warn people, because I see these little kids and I know what they're putting in the vaccines. I know it's a eugenics program. No matter how horrible it sounds, I know the truth. It's hard for me to admit what their own documents say. And I know what the drugging's about. I've seen them at the state level in Texas say it's eugenics. These children are subhuman. And I've talked to these psychiatrists and psychologists. They are on power trips. They are flaming evil. I mean, they are bastard scum. I'm not saying all of them, but the establishment ones. These certainly aren't your Carl Jung or somebody like that who are pretty neat, it's just these corporate scum. They're these corporate scum. They're to sling rocks, sling dope, sling this stuff at our kids. And I'm tired of these 21st century dope pushers. Go ahead.
Well, Alex, what I was going to say is, the basis of what, when you talk about Jung and some of the others, what was their foundation? It was talk therapy. I mean, if we removed all of the drugs the psychiatric meds that we're giving kids right now, and simply just sat down and talked to them, or had a, quote, expert talk to them, I mean, 98% of them would be doing infinitely better than they are on these meds. So when you're talking about, going back to these immunosuppressant drugs that they're giving kids as vaccinations, I mean, even, again, to draw the parallel, when I was a kid, we got what? Measles, mumps, rubella, polio. That was about it. Maybe chickenpox. Now they're on up to 51, 52 immunosuppressant vaccinations by the time they are 8 years old. I mean, how in God's name can anyone believe that this is beneficial to their immune system? It's a sad, sad reality. Not to mention then on top of it that the very criminals that are contaminating vaccines, like the Baxter International people, which, I was talking about a long time ago, and I know you have been on the show, that could have infected hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people, and could have killed literally millions of people. They're the same people that are making the vaccinations for swine flu. So, again, I tried to produce the film in such a way so that people who had no investment in this, Alex, whatsoever, knew nothing about the issue, could watch Generation RX and come to a logical conclusion themselves about whether or not they felt that this was a sane course to take. And I try to respect the intelligence of the people who are viewing the film. And
well, you've done a masterpiece. You've made a masterpiece in Generation RX. I just hope that people will start caring about their fellow humans and start going to the PTA club, start going to the school board meetings, start going to city council and say, stop pushing drugs in the schools. I was a straight A student. I wasn't straight A my first few years in high school, but we moved down here to Austin. I was straight A, made 100 in some of my classes that last year, to where I didn't need to be at school all day to finish my course load in high school. So for an hour a day, they said, you are a student aide. And I was a student aide there. And one day, I didn't feel good. One day, I was coming down with a cold, and I went into the nurse, and I said, I want to go home. And she said, you have to call your mommy. And here I am, 18 years old. So I sit there and give the phone to my mom. Okay, you can come home. Before I went out and got in my car and drove home. And then she goes, hey, if you're feeling bad, it's like drugs. It's like speed. It gets you high. It's fun. Well, first I said, well, no, I don't want any Ritalin. She said, here's the name of a psychologist. I was real calm at the time, handsome, good-looking, clean-cut, wearing a polo shirt and slacks. People thought I was a cop at the school at Anderson because I didn't really hang out with anybody. I kept to myself. I just wanted to get out of high school. And I said, no, I don't need that. She said, oh, it's fun. It's like drugs. You like speed, don't you? And I'm like, look at me, lady. I'm a jock. I've got like 2% body fat. I didn't say that, but I didn't want it. And then she kind of came on to me sexually. That was like a little added thing. But, I mean, the issue is that they're laughing. It's true. I mean, this country's screwed, man. She came at me, Mr. Miller, as a drug pusher.
Well, and, one of the stories in the film that seems to expose this kind of attitude is what happened to Matthew Milling Downing and her daughter. I mentioned about a half hour ago about Thomas Loughran, the head of the psychopharmacology division at FDA. Tom Loughran his daughters were friends with Matthew Milling Downing's two daughters. They lived in suburban D.C. They lived in the Maryland area. Of course, the FDA headquarters is right near there. Their kids had sleepovers. They socialized, all the rest of it. All of this time, Thomas Loughran knew the effects of Zoloft and these SSRIs and refused to interact with his good friends, who, by the way, he knew that the one daughter was just put on Zoloft, the drug that he had approved for children. And he never even said anything to the Downings. And the end result was, a few months later, that this beautiful, beautiful 11-year-old girl, Candace Downing, hanged herself in the garage of the Downing home 1 hour after watching Animal Planet on TV with her father, sitting on her father's lap.
Good God.
So how do we get to this place where you have such a disconnect, these people who are running the show in D.C. and who are living off of our tax dollars and are so inhumane that they won't share the most basic warning information with friends that they've been friends with for 9 or 10 or 11 years.
But that's the issue with these fake corporate types, is they're into how they don't care about anybody, and they'd watch you drown and not even help. They're in to the fact that they're soulless scum.